On November 29th on Amazon Prime, as well as on the streaming platform aam.tv, there is going to be a brand new series. It is a stand-up show, but it is the first of its kind to feature comics from marginalized communities. And joining Cassandra and I now is the director and producer of Comedy Invasion, coming to your TV soon. Please welcome Quentin Lee. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. How's everything going?
Well, we're doing pretty well, but I feel like you're probably doing better.
I wouldn't say that because I'm actually in LA right now, and City of Sunshine is raining, and I was tested COVID positive this morning. So I have to cancel my whole week's appointment. But I'm so happy to be talking to you guys.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're having a bit of a day. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Quentin, before we get into Comedy Invasion, the TV series, let's go back a bit because you have been producing comedy for a while now, and so let's kind of tell us a little bit about your history, both with production and creation, but also with the comedy world.
Sure, absolutely. So I actually was born and raised in Hong Kong, the former British colony. Then I came over to Montreal in Canada when I was 16, and then I ended up eventually making my way to film school at UCLA, I would say in the 90s. And I made my first feature film with my friend Justin Lin that called Shopping for Fans that premiered at the Toronto Film Festival in 97, and which basically launched both of our careers. And then while Justin went on to make movies like Fast and the Furious, making a lot of independent films. And I started dabbling into television, I'd say in 2018. And I had a bunch of stand-up comics who were Asian American. And I said, hey, I want to create a for you guys. And so I basically created the first, Asian American stand-up comedy TV series called Comedy Invasion, and it's INVASIAN, and that's 2018, and it was sold to Hulu as an exclusive. And then 2019, we decided to, hey, let's make a second season. So I changed the format a little bit and the first season was 6 one-hour comedy specials, and each featuring one Asian American comedian. And in the second season, it became 8 half-hour episodes, each featuring an Asian American comedian. So from that, I just thought, and it's 2021, I realized, there's not really a diverse show in Canada. I mean, diverse show in the sense that it's diverse TV shows created also solely by a diverse person like me. Mm-hmm. So I decided that I'm both Canadian and U.S. I thought, let's bring this idea up. So we spun it off to become Comedy Invasion. So the regular invasion, and what include, comics who are either diverse, who's like LGBTQ+, BIPOC, disabled, and or female. And then I started casting and found and sort of created this cast of the current Comedy Invasion. And I pitched it to every Canadian platform, every Canadian broadcaster, zero support in development stage. So I was able to find, some private equity. And so I financed the series through my Canadian company. And then at distribution, again, I shopped it around to every Canadian broadcaster. No takers.
Yep.
And so, and then I was fortunate enough to have a support of an international distributor in the U.S. named Viva Pictures, and we've been collaborating on all comedy TV series. So they sold it to, they're basically putting the series out on November 29th on Amazon Prime, also Roku and Tubi, and also my own platform, aam.tv. And that's really how Comedy Invasion came to be what it is now, releasing.
Well, and you've said so many things that I really want to touch on there, because my background is in the comedy world as well. And I feel like I know exactly how those talks with Canadian broadcasters went. But what drew you to the world of stand-up? Because it is, it is such a weird world, but also, you were kind of working on it's a different kind of television show to produce than sort of is typical. What first made you want to showcase stand-up comedians?
Well, in the beginning was I just have like a few stand comic friends who are Asian American. I know that they've basically been putting up shows for like a decade, and yet they're still not breaking through. So I thought, well, you know what? I really believe in the talents of these comics. So I just decided to create a TV series. And again, in Comedy Invasion series, in season 1, it was all a 1 hour special. And again, like I realized, and then when I'm creating season 2, I realized, okay, well, maybe because with comics, they don't really not everyone has a 1 hour special.
Yep.
And also, secondly, so I just thought, you know what? Maybe I should just do it short, to kind of fit this format into the more kind of like, standard comedy TV series format, which is 30 minutes, so that then when we approach the comic wouldn't have to give up the 1 hour special to a young series, and then they can still do that with like, a Netflix or something bigger. Yet we could do maybe a half hour kind of like act or set up an episode. And what I really love about presenting comics and creating like, a TV series this way is that I'm able to really kind of like present organically a comic's vision, and so kind of like everything's very organic and artistic. And basically, I would go and I would shoot everything like a documentary. So I get everything, whatever the whole set is. And then once we are in editing, we just basically, my job is to really make this set really, really good. So potentially some jokes that didn't land, we'll cut it out, and then we'll enhance certain things. And sometimes the sound didn't come through, we'll do ADR. So I just think it's very artistically satisfying for me as a filmmaker to be able to present kind of like little artistic visions that are very unique and personal to a broader kind of audience. And because as you know, when you make a movie, you go through development, and it's like 2 years later, you're not even making the movie that you started with. And with something about stand-up comedy that is so immediate and so kind of like personal and so unique, yet, we're able to present it to the broader audience to say there's a value in this point of view. And that to me is very satisfying as an artist.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but that definitely makes sense. And I think you have you've also made excellent choices with the comedians, and most of whom I either know or I'm familiar with. And it's really nice to see, first of all, I think especially in the case of Desiree Walsh, who has worked so hard, and actually the pandemic, she is one of the only comics that the pandemic benefited, because she uses a chair, and the majority of comedy spaces seem to be up or down a flight of stairs, and accessibility has always been a big issue for her. And then she was able to do multiple shows in a night when everyone transitioned to Zoom, and it's really been amazing for her. And so for her to get an opportunity like this, when clubs, there is a barrier to access for her to be seen in some of the more typical places, I think is really just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I went to school at Berkeley. So basically it was in 1988. And at that time, California was pretty much accessible everywhere we go, whether there's a disabled bathroom everywhere. And then when I was actually shooting the series with Desiree, and she was saying like, Quentin, it's not like this in Toronto. And I remember I was in the initial kind of like, not negotiation, but just chat with her. And she's always saying like, Quentin, please make sure this venue is accessible. Mm-hmm. I said, well, it should be. It's in Vancouver. I mean, but I think it's interesting to really be able to present, Desiree, who's, disabled and who may not usually be able to get like a really kind of good platform to present it. And I really am excited that her voice is, coming up. But what's interesting was that before Desiree, I actually had a comedian called Courtney Gilmore.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Courtney was very interested, and then when we kind of set the date, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm on this other TV thing I couldn't talk about, and with the date that you said, it wouldn't work out for me." So I said, "Okay, no, that's no worries." And then that's when I reached out to Desiree, and she stepped in. And then what's funny was that on the first day we were shooting Comedy Invasion, one of the comedians say, "Oh my God, isn't this Courtney? She won like Canada's Got Talent."
Yeah.
So I'm just really excited that that two voices, not just Desiree, but also Courtney's voice also came out through another show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we love Courtney. We've had her on the show a bunch of times. We love her. She's so funny. And I mean, what you're doing is amazing. It's the first of its kind. What do you want people to take away from it? You've put in so much hard work and are doing something so amazing. What's the goal? What do you want people to kind of walk away with?
I really just want people to have a good time and laugh, and also know that laughter doesn't necessarily have to come from the kind of like standard, the standard sort of like popular male comedians. There's so many other diverse voices that should be heard and as like equally entertaining, if not more. So I just hope people enjoy the show and just open their kind of like taste buds up to other people, other comic voices who are diverse.
Yeah, something I always tell people is that there's a comic out there for everyone. You just have to find them, and because it really is like there's every kind of comic in this world. But a lot of comics don't have the same trajectory, right? And we know representation is hugely important. And I think when it comes to the sense of humor is something that is quite individual, quite unique. And so the more types of people that audiences can see doing stand-up, the better chance they have to find that person whose comedy really speaks to them. And so it's so great for the audience as well to be able to find that person who really just tickles their funny bone.
Yeah, I mean, what you said it totally makes sense, because what's interesting was that I actually haven't really seen the entire series, kind of like all the episodes side by side, except for the day that we were actually doing coloring and final editing. And so I was able, in one day, I was able to watch every episode, like 8 of them. And each episode comes from such a different and unique point of view. And watching them together really gives me this really kind of like both optimistic and really kind of like interesting kind of like vision of the future of how our world is actually going to be, a lot more diverse. And I think that for a long time, Hollywood and even traditional media are catching up to be able to tell these stories. And I'm glad that these stories are finally getting told now.
Well, and everybody listening will have a chance to watch the show on November 29th and in so many places. So no matter where you're listening from, you can see it on Amazon Prime, Roku, Tubi, or you can go to aam.tv, which is Quentin's own streaming site, and check out the show. And you can go to comedyinvasion.ca or comedyinvasion.com to see, a little bit more about it, who all is going to be featured. So many wonderful comics are going to be on this show. Quentin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
You too, and feel better soon.
Feel better.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Again, Comedy Invasion premieres on November 29th on Amazon Prime, Roku, Tubi. Make sure you check it out.